next output device which we need to look at is printers. And when we talk about printers, there's traditional printers which print on paper, and then we're also going to be looking at in the next video 3D printers, which is a revolutionary new thing which is coming online and which is pretty amazing. But right now in this video, what we're going to look at is printers that print on paper. And we're going to break those printers into two categories: non-impact printers and impact printers. And the reason we're breaking them into those two categories is because that's the way it's traditionally been done in textbooks that cover an introductory computer concepts course. And impact printers, the idea behind an impact printer like the dot matrix printer, which you see here, and this is how you spell dot matrix. A dot matrix printer is an impact printer because there's a sheet of paper, and and then you're going to have an ink ribbon, which will be between the sheet of paper, and then there'll be pens which hit the ink ribbon. And so the way a dot matrix printer works is those pens hit the ink ribbon, and then the ink ribbon hits the page and it leaves little dots of ink. So you can make little letters like that. And that's why we call it an impact printer, because it actually physically impacts the page. So it works kind of like a typewriter in that sense, whereas typewriters, you put in the sheet of paper, there'd be the ink ribbon, and then the keys would hit the ink ribbon against the page, and it would leave an impression. And that's how dot matrix printers work, except they are leaving little dots like that. And this was really sort of late 80s and during the 90s that we saw a lot of dot matrix printers. And today, dot matrix printers aren't as popular. So if we look at the Wikipedia page and current uses, contemporary use, not as widely used. If we were to buy a dot matrix printer, we're paying anywhere from $30 to $400 for a dot matrix printer, and that's a lot of money for a dot matrix printer. So that's an impact printer. The dot matrix printer is an impact printer. We have non-impact printers like the inkjet printer and the laser printer. So the inkjet printer, and here is Wikipedia's inkjet printing. And the inkjet printer looks, kind of like that. They all sort of look the same. And the cost of the inkjet printer is, $30, $61, $150, $130, $95 at the time I'm making these videos. So, not very expensive. But the cool thing about inkjet printers is they allow us to print in color. And so that's why inkjet printers are popular. And the way the inkjet printer works is it actually sprays ink onto the page. And crazily, and interestingly, the way it does that is it heats the ink up. It heats the ink up. And when the ink heats up, the bubble pops and explodes. So it actually, I think, boils the ink, and then that little pop bubble explodes and splashes the page. But it just happens on such a small level, they're able to be really precise with those small splashes. And so that's an inkjet printer. And if you want to do color in your house, inkjet printer is usually the more economical choice. A laser printer prints with a laser, using a laser. And the way it kind of works with a laser printer is that a sheet of paper goes into a system, and that sheet of paper will get a charge. So it'll be given like a positive charge. And then there's a print drum or a print head inside the laser printer, and a laser will write against the print drum like a negative charge. And so when the page rolls past the print drum, it kind of lays the image onto the page as a charge. And so it will change the positive to a negative. And then the piece of paper with, the different charges on it will go through kind of like an ink cloud, which has a positive charge. And so where the page is positive and the ink is positive, this dust of ink, positively charged ink, the ink won't stick. The ink dust won't stick because positive and positive repel, like charges repel. And yet where the page has been given a negative charge by the drum, where the laser has written a charge onto the drum, where there's a negative charge on the page, the positively charged ink will stick to the negative charges on the page, and then that ink dust is just sitting on the page, and then the page rolls through a fuser, which heats up that ink dust, which has like a plastic polymer in it of some sort, and it melts that ink dust onto the page. And so your laser printer pages come out hot. And that's kind of how they work. It's kind of a crazy process. There's probably a YouTube video about it. I didn't look it up. I'm not so much concerned with you knowing how inkjet printers or laser printers work. What I do want you to know is that, you know, people like inkjet printers because it gives us color. And if you look for inkjet printers, you see stuff about color. And laser printers, mostly laser printers are black and white when you're down in the lower price. And so if you're only printing black and white pages, then you know your black and white is your best bet is going to be to go with a laser printer if you're only printing black and white, like, you know, it's just letters and things like that. So here are laser printers. You can see black and white, and these are, you know, pretty reasonable. And if you get into color, here you can see color, you're jumping up a couple of $100. And I'm not sure what the toner cartridges are, what they cost, but that's also an important consideration when purchasing a printer, is looking at what is your cost per page, And I'm not quite sure where you'd find that, but there's probably some information out there. Printer cost per page comparison, right? So you might find some information about their cost per page comparison. Printer buying guide, printers, right? So that'll take into account the cost of the printer and then also the cost of what do the ink replacement cartridges cost. Another phrase which is good to know about when talking about printers is PPM, pages per minute. So we'll do pages per minute. And so that's just another measure of a printer. How quickly do the pages come out? You know, so when you're looking for printers, that's one thing people look at. So that's dot matrix printers, which is an impact printer. And then we also have inkjet printers, which are good for color and pretty economical. And then we have laser printers, which are great for just printing, you know, printed documents with text, black and white. And if you want to go to color with a laser printer, you're going to be paying more. Laser printer generally has the better quality, the best quality on the market. So that's laser printers. I found a little article, laser versus inkjet printers from 2010. And, you know, just kind of comparing the two. So if you're in the market for a printer, that's a good thing to do. Just sort of read about the two different types of main printers that are in the marketplace today and figure out which one is right for you. There's also something called thermal printing, and that's kind of interesting to know about. If you look over here on the right, we have a history of printing with woodblock printing, movable type, the printing press, you know, all the way down to dot matrix printers, laser printers, and inkjet printing back in 1956, interestingly enough. 3D printing and, you know, thermal printing's in here. And it's a digital printing process which produces a printed image by selectively heating coated thermochromic paper, or thermal paper as is commonly known, when the paper passes over the thermal print head. The coating turns black in the areas where it's heated, producing an image. Two-color direct thermal printers can both be black and an additional color, often red, by applying heat at two different temperatures. So, you know, this is what we use for receipts a lot. So I'm just going to look for receipt. How do we spell receipt? Concerned about BPA, check your receipts. BPA and store receipts. So that's here under thermal printing. So I'm pretty sure this is what we use for receipts. Though I'm not seeing that. They're thermal printing receipts. Let's see what comes up. Thermal printing receipts. Yeah, so there's a whole heck of a lot of that. So thermal paper. So, you know, the next thing which is cool to know about printing is you could go to this place, WHCC, which is White House, I don't know, custom something. I'm not sure what it stands for. But this is where professional photographers, I have a friend who's a professional photographer, White House Custom Color is what it stands for. And you could go and you could have your photographs printed in ways that professional photographers usually print photographs. So here you could have books done, you could have framed prints, you could have canvas standouts, right? So you could do all kinds of interesting things. You know, there's a book, you know, there's another book. Here's, you know, you could have iPhone protector skin printed. And if you look at their products, their wall displays, I think, are particularly cool, right? You could have these different types of float wraps. And so just knowing that there's printing resources out there where you could have stuff printed, like you could go to FedEx office online, and they have all kinds of print services. You could have these big posters printed. They have signs, banners, posters, um, business cards, letterhead, right? You could upload documents to be printed here and then go pick them up. That's kind of interesting. Something else which is interesting is Apple has iPhoto print products where you could have these books printed and pretty easy to use, or you could have calendars printed. Let's see what they got here. Books and calendars, right? Books, calendars, little cards, books, binding, books, calendar. So that's Apple printing. And then finally, if you ever want to print things like, flyers to hand out for parties, which I see sometimes on campus, or business cards, there's all kinds of businesses that do professional printing, and you could go to, like, I've used Got Print before for business cards, and you just upload your images and they will print your business cards for you. 500 business cards, $8.50. So pretty cool stuff. So there's a lot of stuff you could look at and think about when it comes to outputting, information from a computer onto a piece of paper. We got dot matrix printers, we've got inkjet printers, we have laser printers, which are better for quality, and which is the choice you should go for if it's just going to be printing printed pages, black and white, and maybe even if you're doing color, if you've got a little extra money. Then there are those thermal printers like receipts where the heat changes the paper and that changes the color on the paper. And then we have like photographic printing. We have FedEx for online printing. We have Apple for printing books and calendars with your images in them. You could also do that probably at other places if you just Google for companies that do that. And we have professional printing services for all kinds of stuff. You can see all the stuff over here that you could have printed. So that's a little bit about printing.